Hi everyone, this is Daryl and welcome back to Book Odyssey. Today I'm going to be looking at what we know so far about Apple TV's adaptation of Isaac Asimov's Foundation series and asking, will adapting it for TV work? The Foundation series is one of the first science fiction book series that depicts an empire on a galactic scale, and you can see its influence in many science fiction today, even though it was written by Asimov 70 years ago. According to Apple TV's synopsis, Foundation chronicles a band of exiles on their monumental journey to save humanity and rebuild civilization amid the fall of the Galactic Empire. Everything begins with Hari Seldon, the creator of psychohistory, which has the potential for predicting and influencing future social development and events. Seldon predicts that Trantor, the Galactic Empire's hub and capital, will be destroyed within 300 years as the climax to the Empire's fall. He predicts, through psychohistory, that this fall will lead to a 30,000-year period of anarchy before a second empire is established. He proposes a project to influence events so that the period of anarchy will be shortened to only 1,000 years and not 30,000. The project, known as the Foundation, sees a group of the greatest living scientists, engineers and historians travel to a remote planet known as Terminus. There they are tasked with preserving an anthology of humanity's knowledge, the Encyclopedia Galactica, so that at the end of the millennium, a second empire may begin. But Seldon secretly creates a second Foundation at the opposite end of the galaxy, for purposes known only to him. The stories that follow take place over centuries and revolve around several crises as the Foundation gains power, territories, and enemies. One thing is clear from the trailer: Apple is throwing a heck load of money at this, and they're clearly hoping the show will be something big. And it really does have the potential to be massive. The teaser clip is just stunning, but as we know, superb visuals don't always guarantee quality. After decades of various directors and studios trying to adapt Foundation, the production company Skydance will succeed where others have feared to tread, after bringing on board David S. Goyer as co-writer, producer and showrunner. As of April this year, it seems that production has mostly wrapped, after delays and setbacks caused by the pandemic. But Foundation still doesn't have a confirmed launch date, although every time I access my Apple TV I see the Foundation insignia with the words "coming in 2021. In an interview with Love in Malta, showrunner Goyer said it was going to air in the autumn of 2021. So if this is the case, we could see Foundation start around late September or early October this year. The audience is changing the way we're consuming stories, Goyer told Love in Malta. Game of Thrones was one of the first to do a giant novelistic show, and now with Foundation we can hopefully tell the story over 80 episodes, or 80 hours, as opposed to trying to condense it down into a 2 or 3 hour film. It's clear from this that Goyer recognises the potential scope and scale of Foundation. We already know from the cast list that a number of changes have been made from the books, mostly to do with altering the gender of a number of key characters. But one major question I have is, will the show stick rigidly to the source material? I can't help but think that if it does, it will encounter a number of problems, which I'll go into shortly. Some of these potential issues might be part of the reason why there hasn't been a Foundation adaptation before. That's not to say people haven't tried, but all previous attempts have seemed to never get off the ground. New Line Cinema spent $1.5 million developing a movie adaptation of Asimov's trilogy in 1998, but subsequently it failed. A decade later, New Line attempted to produce a Foundation film series for Warner Brothers through their Unique Pictures production company, but were beaten to the screen rights by Columbia Pictures. This project, however, failed to go anywhere. Things went quiet on the Foundation adaptation front until HBO obtained the rights in 2014. Signing up Jonathan Nolan as showrunner and producer, HBO spent 3 years trying to adapt Asimov's work for TV. However, in June 2017, it was reported that Skydance Media was now developing a Foundation TV series. Jump ahead to August 2018, and Apple TV confirmed it had ordered a 10-episode straight-to-series order in collaboration with Skydance's television division. There's plenty of mind-blowing material in the first 3 books alone to create something truly extraordinary. So why is it apparently so hard to adapt? As I see it, there are a number of issues which might hinder the direct adaptation from book to screen. One of the biggest problems that might arise when trying to adapt Foundation is that the books are very concept-driven and cerebral, with less emphasis on strong plotting and little character development, which was generally how a lot of sci-fi was written back in the so-called Golden Age, as I've spoken about in previous videos. But if the show writers can find a way to strengthen the aspects of the story that modern entertainment consumers expect, while also enabling the show to have a good diversity of action, visual drama and intrigue, then I think it could be big. Like Game of Thrones big. Another issue that might arise is that there are many prequels and sequels that were added to the original trilogy over the course of Asimov's life and beyond. There's scope to bring these in, but if it's not done right, it could potentially confuse a TV viewer. Asimov's original stories were published by Astounding magazine between 1942 and 1950, and were then collected into the 3 initial books in the early 50s. The trilogy stood on its own for almost 30 years, until Asimov returned to the series with 1982's Foundation Edge, ultimately producing 1 more sequel, Foundation and Earth, and 2 more prequels, Prelude to Foundation and Forward the Foundation. More books in the series were authorised by Asimov's estate after his death, with noted sci-fi authors Gregory Benford, Greg Bear, and David Brin penning Foundation's Fear, Foundation and Chaos, and Foundation's Triumph. It's currently unclear if Apple TV's Season 1 will include Prelude to Foundation, the book series' first prequel in the novel, which explores the backstory of key Foundation characters, including Harry Seldon. Alternatively, showrunner Goya could intersperse the prequel and sequel books as flashbacks and flash-forwards, if the show primarily focuses on the main trilogy. Another major concern that any adaptation will have to overcome is in getting to grips with just how sprawling the story is. I mean, it literally stretches over millennia. The first book alone covers nearly 200 years. In book form this works. The ideas and setting are compelling, and what is essentially a series of short stories with different characters is entertaining and stimulating. However, TV is a very different medium. With few exceptions, what viewers generally want in a TV show is captivating characters that they can latch onto. And as I said, Foundation was written during a time when the standard format for sci-fi meant the characters were for the most part just there to further the plot or explain an idea. Many Foundation characters could be argued as being little more than names conveying information. Even Harry Seldon himself, the only character to appear in some form in multiple stories, dies very undramatically and early in the first book. He does, however, have 2 prequels to flesh out his backstory. It doesn't help when the time jumps between books are so substantial that nearly every character dies off screen and is generally never mentioned again. This means the reader never really cares about the characters in themselves and therefore has no real emotional attachment to what happens to them. In my opinion, what the TV adaptation needs to do is inject these elements into the story. It could do that in a number of ways. One might be to treat each season, assuming we get more than one, as an anthology series, with new characters and problems and settings that are introduced. Another could be to create a character or characters with the ability to live across these huge lengths of time, allowing viewers to become involved and latch onto them, so to speak, which could actually be something that the producers have planned. Finnish actress Laura Byrne has been cast as the robot Ito Demerzel. This is notable because this character wasn't in the original trilogy, only the prequels, giving a hint about what will be covered in the show. It's also a potentially handy device for show creators to have an essentially immortal character that audiences can identify across seasons. Another potential issue with any adaptation of Foundation from book to screen can be summarised in one of the character's well-known phrases: "Violence is the last refuge of the incompetent." The books generally avoid the necessity for violence, and by that reasoning, some might argue they also avoid action, which traditionally makes for great TV. When you say the words space opera, people generally have a preconception that what they're about to watch will in some way involve action and subsequently violence. They generally think Star Wars. However, in Foundation, huge space battles are mainly avoided, which if adapted straight from the books could leave some feeling cheated out of what they thought they were getting. As a fan of the Foundation trilogy and of classic sci-fi generally, I personally hope that, for once, the show creators don't stick religiously to the books. I think the best Foundation adaptation will be one that uses the concepts, stories and settings and turns these into something fresh and modern for TV audiences to enjoy. This doesn't have to mean it has to be any less cerebral though. But above all, I really just want it to entertain me. With The Expanse coming to an end soon, I really need something to fill the void that it will leave in my life, and I'm hoping Foundation will be the one to do it. So that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time guys, happy reading.